We are going to spend some time together with a teaching that you may have been waiting your whole life to hear. It is a teaching about wholeness, about the quiet, unshakable truth that beneath everything you have been told about yourself, beneath every story of not enough, there is something perfectly still and perfectly whole that has never once been broken. Tonight, we are not here to fix anything. We are not here to become better or wiser or more at peace. We are here to remember, gently, softly, the way the first light of morning reminds a room that it has always had windows, that there was never anything wrong with you in the first place. Before we begin, feel free to share what time it is and where you are listening from. Now, wherever you are, let yourself arrive here. You do not need to be anywhere else. You do not need to be anyone other than who you are right now, in this breath, in this body, lying exactly where you are. If the day was long, you can let it be long. You do not need to shorten it or make sense of it or tie it up with a neat ending. It happened, and now it is behind you, the way the road behind a traveler is behind them. Still there, but no longer theirs to walk. Let your eyes close if they have not already. Let your shoulders drop just a little, not because you should, but because they have been holding so much today, and perhaps they are tired of carrying it. Perhaps they have been waiting all day for someone to say, "You can put that down now." So here it is. You can put it down now. Whatever you were holding. The worry. The plan. The conversation you keep replaying. The thing you wish you had said or done differently. You can set it beside the bed like a pair of shoes. It will still be there in the morning if you need it. But right now, in this moment, it does not belong to you. Take one slow breath in and let it go. Not a perfect breath, not a deep breath, just a breath. Your body already knows how to do this. It has been breathing for you all day without asking for anything in return. You do not need to figure anything out right now. Let the breath come and go as it pleases. And let yourself settle, like a stone sinking softly into warm sand at the bottom of a very still lake. There is no rush. The lake is patient. The sand is soft. And you have been sinking toward this rest all day. And if thoughts come about the day, about tomorrow, about the thing you forgot or the thing you regret, let them come. You do not need to chase them away. They are just the last echoes of a busy day, like the sound a bell makes long after it has been struck. They will fade on their own. You do not need to help them. We are here now, together, in the quiet. And there is nothing required of you. There is an old saying in the Zen tradition. A student once traveled many miles to reach a renowned teacher. When he finally arrived, tired and dusty from the road, he bowed deeply and asked, "What must I do to become whole?" And the teacher, after a long pause, so long that the dust settled on the student's robes and the afternoon light shifted from one wall to the other, said simply, "Who told you that you were broken?" Let those words rest in the room with you. You do not need to answer them. You do not need to understand them or turn them over in your mind. Just let them be here, the way the moon is here, even when clouds pass in front of it. Always shining, always full. Whether you can see it or not, There was once a young monk named Taro who came to a small monastery in the mountains during the first cold weeks of autumn. The leaves had just begun to turn, golds and reds appearing at the edges, like a quiet fire slowly lighting up the hillsides. The air smelled of pine and rain and distant wood smoke, and in the mornings the valleys were filled with a mist so thick that the monastery seemed to float above the world like a place that existed outside of time. Taro had traveled a very long way to reach this place. He had walked for many days through villages and forests, across rivers, and along ridge lines where the wind was sharp and the path was narrow. He carried with him a small pack containing his few possessions, a robe, a bowl, a blanket, and a notebook in which he had written a long list of questions. Questions about suffering, questions about the nature of the self, questions about why, no matter how hard he practiced, no matter how many sutras he memorized, no matter how still he sat on his cushion, he still felt as though something inside him was fundamentally wrong. He had felt this way for as long as he could remember. Even as a child, he had sensed that other people possessed something he did not. Some ease, some lightness, some quiet confidence in their own existence. They moved through the world as if they belonged in it. Taro moved through the world as if he were always arriving late to something, always one step behind, always trying to catch up to the person he was supposed to be. When he arrived at the monastery, he was given a room. A simple room with a mat on the floor, a low window that looked out onto the courtyard, where a persimmon tree stood bare in the autumn air, and a single candle on a wooden shelf. An older monk named Jinnen showed him where to put his things and told him quietly that the teacher, a woman named Myoen, would see him in the morning. That night, Taro could not sleep. He lay on his mat and went over his questions in his mind, rehearsing what he would say, refining each question until it sounded serious enough, deep enough, worthy enough. He wanted to sound thoughtful. He wanted to sound committed. Most of all, he wanted the teacher to see that he was someone who was trying very, very hard, because trying hard was the only thing Taro knew how to do. It was the only thing that made him feel like he was earning his place in the world. In the morning, he washed his face in cold water, dressed carefully in his cleanest robe, and walked to the small room where Myoen received visitors. She was an old woman with short gray hair and very calm eyes. The kind of eyes that did not seem to look at you so much as see you. The way sunlight sees everything it touches without choosing what to illuminate. She sat on a cushion beside a low table. On the table was a cup of tea, still steaming, and a single persimmon, bright orange against the dark wood. Taro bowed and sat down across from her. He opened his notebook and began to speak. He told her about his years of study, the monasteries he had visited, the teachers he had listened to. He told her about his difficulties with meditation, how his mind would not be still, how his thoughts chased each other like leaves in the wind, how he often felt distracted, and then ashamed of the distraction, and then ashamed of the shame, until the whole practice felt like one long exercise in failure. He told her about the feeling that had followed him since childhood, the feeling that he was somehow made wrong, that somewhere in the making of him, something essential had been left out, and that other people could see the absence even when they were too kind to say so. He spoke for a long time. Myoen listened without interrupting. She did not nod or frown or write anything down. She simply listened, the way the earth listens to rain, openly, completely, without judgment. When he was finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she picked up the persimmon from the table and held it out to him. "Tell me," she said, "what is wrong with this persimmon?" Taro looked at it. It was a little lopsided. The skin had a few dark spots near the stem where the sun had marked it. One side was slightly more orange than the other, as if it had ripened unevenly. A small crease ran along the bottom. "Nothing," he said after a pause. "It is just a persimmon." Myoen smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, like the first light at the edge of a long night. "And yet," she said, "if this persimmon could think, it might spend its whole life worrying about its spots. It might compare itself to the persimmon on the next branch, the rounder one, the smoother one, the one without the crease. It might believe that it needed to become something other than what it is before it could be worthy of being picked, of being held, of being placed on a table and offered to a guest." She placed the fruit gently back on the table. "You have come a long way, Taro. You have carried your questions like stones in a bag, and the bag has grown very heavy. But I wonder, have you ever considered that the bag is not yours to carry? That the questions themselves are not the path, but the weight that keeps you from walking it?" Taro did not know what to say. He sat very still. And in the silence, something he could not name began to loosen in his chest. Not an answer, not a revelation, but something softer. Something like the first breath after holding one for a very long time. Something like the feeling of a hand unclenching that did not know it had been closed. There is a concept in Buddhist teaching called Buddha nature. It is the idea that within every being, not just monks, not just saints, not just people who have it all figured out, within every being, there is an awareness that is already awake, already complete, already at peace. You do not earn Buddha nature. You do not achieve it through effort or discipline or years of practice. It is not a reward for getting things right. It is not something that arrives once you have suffered enough, or studied enough, or become good enough. It is what you are underneath the worry, underneath the striving, underneath the voice that tells you that you are not enough. Like the moon behind clouds, it does not go away just because you cannot see it. The clouds may be thick, the sky may be dark, but the moon is shining. It has always been shining. Even now, even here, even on the nights when you feel most lost. So now, you might notice where in your body you carry the feeling of not enough. Perhaps it lives in your chest, a tightness, a pressure, a feeling of something clenched. Perhaps it lives in your throat, or in the space behind your eyes, or in the way your shoulders have been drawn up toward your ears without your realizing it. You do not need to push it away. You do not need to fix it, or understand it, or trace it back to where it started. You might simply notice it the way you would notice a cloud passing across the sky, without reaching for it, without trying to change its shape. And perhaps, just for a moment, just for the length of this one breath, you might allow the possibility that this feeling is not the truth of who you are, that it is weather, and you are the sky. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time, and when you are ready, we will continue together. In a village at the base of a long green valley, where the river came down from the mountains cold and clear, there lived a woman named Suki who made pottery. She had a small workshop behind her house, a room with a packed earth floor, a kiln made of clay bricks that her grandmother had built, and a long wooden table stained with years of glaze and slip and the pale dust of dried clay. Suki was known throughout the valley for her work. People came from neighboring villages, sometimes from towns half a day's walk away, to buy her tea bowls, which were simple and beautiful, each one slightly different from the last, each one warm to the touch, each one made with a quietness that you could somehow feel when you held it in your hands. Drinking tea from one of Suki's bowls, people said, was like holding a piece of stillness. But Suki herself did not see her work this way. Every bowl she made, she saw the flaws first. This one was too thick on one side. That one had a glaze that ran unevenly, pooling where it should have been thin. Another had a tiny crack along the rim that she had tried to smooth with her thumb, but could not fully hide. She kept these bowls on a shelf in the back of her workshop, the ones she considered failures, the ones she could not bring herself to sell. And over the years, the shelf had grown very full, 3 rows deep in some places, a whole wall of things she was ashamed of. One autumn afternoon, when the air was crisp and the light came in low and golden through the workshop window, a traveling monk stopped at her door and asked if he might buy a bowl for his tea. He was a thin man with kind eyes and a walking staff that was worn smooth where his hand had gripped it over many miles. Suki invited him in and showed him the bowls she had set aside for selling. Her best work, the ones she was least ashamed of, the ones that came closest to the image she held in her mind of what a bowl should be. The monk looked at them politely, turning each one over in his hands with care. Then his eyes moved past her, to the back of the workshop, to the shelf of failures, and without asking permission, he walked toward it. "What about these?" he asked. Suki felt her face grow warm. "Those are not for sale," she said quickly. "They are mistakes." The monk picked up a bowl from the shelf, a wide, shallow bowl with an uneven rim and a glaze that had pooled in one corner like a small dark lake. The color was not what she had intended. The shape was not what she had planned. It was, by every standard she held, a failure. He held it for a long time, turning it slowly in his hands, the way one might hold a sleeping bird, gently, with respect, with something close to reverence. "This is the most beautiful bowl I have ever seen," he said quietly. Suki did not understand. "It is lopsided," she said. "The glaze pooled. The rim is uneven. I could not get it right." The monk nodded slowly. "Yes," he said, "and that is what makes it alive. A perfect bowl is just an idea. It lives only in the mind. But this bowl," he held it up to the light from the window, and the glaze caught the gold of the late afternoon and seemed to glow from within. "This bowl has been through the fire. It did not come out the way you planned. It came out the way it came out. And still, it holds tea. It holds warmth. It does exactly what it was made to do." He paused, looking at her. "Perhaps you have been judging your bowls the way you judge yourself. And perhaps neither judgment is as true as you believe it to be. He bought the bowl, the lopsided one with the pooled glaze and the uneven rim, and he placed it carefully in his pack, wrapping it in a cloth the way one wraps something precious. Before he left, he turned back to her and said, "The Japanese have a word for this. Wabi-sabi. The beauty of imperfection. The beauty of things that are incomplete, impermanent, and imperfect. It is not a consolation prize. It is not what you settle for when perfection fails. It is the deepest beauty there is, because it is the beauty of what is real." After he left, Suki sat in her workshop for a long time. The light moved slowly across the floor and climbed the walls and found the shelf of failures. And for the first time, she looked at those bowls and saw them not as evidence of her inadequacy, but as a record of her aliveness. Of all the times she had tried, and the fire had done what fire does, and something had come into being that was not what she expected, but was nevertheless whole. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a teaching about the middle way, the path between extremes. It is often spoken of in terms of practice, not too tight, not too loose, like the string of an instrument that must be tuned just right to make music. But here, let us hold it a little differently. The middle way is also the path between the person you think you should be and the person you are afraid you are, between the ideal and the failure, between the perfect bowl in your mind and the real bowl that came out of the fire. The middle way says, you do not need to be either of those extremes. You do not need to be perfect, and you are not broken. You are here. You are this. And this imperfect, lopsided, fire-touched life is not a lesser version of something better. It is the thing itself. It is the bowl that holds the tea. So if there is a part of you that feels like a failure, a part that sits on the back shelf of your heart, the part you do not show to anyone, the part you are certain would make people turn away if they could see it, you might let it be here. You do not need to fix it. You do not need to hide it, or explain it, or apologize for it. You might simply let it rest, the way a bowl rests on a shelf, quietly doing nothing, asking for nothing, being exactly what it is. And perhaps, in the quiet of this moment, you might notice that even this part of you, especially this part of you, is worthy of tenderness, that the cracks are not evidence of failure. They are evidence of living, that the places where the glaze ran wrong, where the shape came out different from the plan, these are the places where the light gets in. These are the places where your life became yours, and not just an idea of a life. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. There is an old Zen story about a farmer named Haku who lived alone at the edge of a great forest. His house was small and plain, wood and stone and a thatched roof that he patched each spring. Behind the house, he kept a garden. Nothing grand, just a few rows of vegetables, some herbs in clay pots along the south wall, a patch of wildflowers his wife had planted before she died, and a plum tree that his mother had put in the ground when he was a boy. The tree was old now, its bark rough and gray, its branches reaching wide and low, and in spring it still bloomed, pale pink blossoms that fell like snow when the wind blew. Every morning, no matter the season, Haku would walk into his garden and tend to whatever needed tending. Some days, this meant pulling weeds from between the rows of beans. Some days, it meant carrying water in 2 wooden buckets from the stream at the bottom of the hill. Some days, it meant simply standing at the edge of the garden in the early light and noticing what had changed overnight, which leaves had unfurled, which blossoms had opened, which fruit had fallen softly to the ground. Haku's neighbor, a younger man named Ren, often watched him from across the low fence that separated their properties. Ren had a much larger garden, rows and rows of carefully planned crops, tall stakes, and neat lines of string marking each section. An irrigation system he had designed and built himself. Ren worked very hard. He rose before dawn and often did not stop until the sky was dark and the owls were calling from the forest. His garden was orderly and productive. But Ren was not at peace. He worried constantly. He worried about the weather. Too much rain, too little rain. He worried about the insects and the deer that came down from the mountain at night. He worried about whether the soil was right, whether he had planted too early or too late. At night, he lay awake making plans, going over lists in his mind, trying to anticipate every possible thing that could go wrong. One evening, just as the light was fading, Ren came to Haku's door. He looked tired. His hands were rough and cracked. His eyes were red. "How do you do it?" Ren asked. "Your garden is small, and yet you seem content. My garden is 3 times the size of yours, and I have not known a peaceful night in years." Haku invited him inside and made tea. They sat together in silence for a while. Through the open window, they could hear the stream and the wind in the pines. Finally, Haku spoke. "When I was young, I was like you. I believed that if I worked hard enough, I could make the garden perfect. I could prevent every loss. I could control the rain and the sun and the seasons." He took a sip of his tea. And then, one spring, a late frost came. It came in the night, quiet and complete, and by morning everything was gone. Every seedling, every blossom on the plum tree. The garden was as bare as midwinter. He paused. I stood in the garden and I wept. I felt that I had failed, that I had done something wrong. Ren nodded. He knew this feeling. But the next morning, Haku continued, I walked into the garden anyway, and I noticed something. The soil was still there. The sun was still there. The stream was still running. The plum tree was still standing, bare and cold but alive. The garden had not ended. Only one version of it had ended, and a new one was already beginning, whether I helped it or not. He set down his cup. That is when I understood. The garden does not need me to be perfect. It needs me to show up, to tend what is here, to let go of what is not. The frost is not a punishment. The drought is not a failure. They are just weather. And the garden, the real garden, the one beneath all the plans and worries, the garden is always growing. Ren sat with those words for a long time. Outside, the stars appeared above the tree line, quiet and unhurried, as if they had been there all along. The Buddha spoke often about impermanence, anicca, in the old Pali language. Everything changes, everything passes. The frost comes and the blossoms fall. The seasons turn and turn again, and nothing remains exactly as it was. But impermanence is not only about loss, it is also about renewal. It means that the difficult moment you are in right now will not last forever. The heaviness you carry will not always be this heavy. The thoughts that circle your mind will, in time, slow and settle. The way ripples on a lake eventually return to stillness. You do not need to force them to stop. You only need to stop believing that they are permanent. They are weather. They are frost. They are clouds passing. And you are the garden beneath, patient, alive, already growing toward the next season, even in the dark. So now, you might imagine yourself as a garden. Not a perfect garden. Not a garden in full bloom. Perhaps a garden in winter. Quiet, bare, resting. The soil dark and still. The seeds asleep beneath the surface, holding their small lives in the warmth of the earth. Waiting for nothing, needing nothing, simply being. You do not need to bloom right now. You do not need to produce anything or prove anything or grow toward any light. You might simply rest in the quiet knowing that the garden is still alive, even when nothing is visible. That rest is not failure. That winter is not death. That fallow ground is not wasted ground. That sometimes the most important thing a garden can do is simply be still and let the earth hold it. Feel the ground beneath you now. Feel your body resting, held by something solid and patient. The bed beneath you, the floor beneath the bed, the earth beneath the floor, ancient and steady, holding mountains and oceans and sleeping gardens without effort. You are held. You have always been held. There has never been a single moment in your life when the earth was not holding you. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. Many years ago, in a monastery on the coast of a quiet sea, where the sound of the waves was always present, a constant breathing, in and out, like the world's own meditation, there lived a monk named Ananda, who was known for one thing above all else. He could not stop thinking. It was not that he thought about unhelpful things. His thoughts were often wise, often beautiful. He could see deeply into the heart of a sutra. He could speak about the Dharma in ways that moved people to tears. But he could not stop. His mind was like a river that had forgotten how to rest, always flowing, always turning, always carrying something downstream. At night, when the other monks slept, Ananda would lie on his mat and the thoughts would come like visitors who did not know when to leave. He would think about what he had said that day and whether it had been right. He would think about what he should have said. He would think about tomorrow and the day after that. He would think about thinking itself and wonder why he could not simply stop. He had tried everything. He had tried counting his breaths. He had tried focusing on a single point. He had tried repeating mantras until his jaw ached. He had tried sitting in the cold night air until his body shivered, hoping discomfort might shock his mind into silence. Nothing worked. The river kept flowing. One night, unable to sleep, he rose from his mat and walked outside. The moon was full and bright, casting long silver shadows across the courtyard. He walked past the meditation hall, past the kitchen garden, and down to the shore, where the waves came in low and quiet against the rocks. There, sitting on a flat stone at the water's edge, was the monastery's oldest teacher, a very old woman named Pema, who spoke so rarely that most of the younger monks had never heard her voice. Ananda hesitated, but Pema, without turning around, gestured for him to sit. They sat together in silence for a long time. The waves came in and went out. The moonlight moved slowly across the water, making a path that seemed to lead to the horizon. Finally, Ananda said, "I cannot quiet my mind. I have tried everything. I am afraid that something is wrong with me." Pema did not answer right away. She looked out at the sea. Then she pointed at the water. "Do you see the waves?" she asked. "Yes." "Are they a problem?" Ananda watched the waves, small, gentle, one after another, coming in, going out. "No," he said, "they are just waves." "And do they stop the ocean from being the ocean?" "No." "Then why do you believe your thoughts stop you from being who you are?" Ananda opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. He sat there, looking at the moonlight on the water, and something shifted. Not in his mind, which was still thinking, still turning, still full of waves, but somewhere deeper, somewhere beneath the surface, a stillness that had been there all along, waiting, patient, untroubled by the movement above it. He did not stop thinking that night. The thoughts continued, but for the first time, he did not mind. He sat beside the ocean and let the waves be waves and let the stillness be still. And he breathed, and the breathing was enough. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a beautiful image. The deep, still lake beneath the surface ripples. The lake does not fight the ripples. It does not try to smooth them. It simply rests beneath them, vast and quiet and untroubled. Your mind may be full of ripples right now. Thoughts about the day, worries about tomorrow, old stories about who you are and who you should be. And that is all right. The ripples are not a sign that something is wrong. They are simply what minds do. Beneath the ripples, there is a stillness in you that has never been disturbed. It was there when you were a child. It is there now. It will be there tomorrow. You do not need to create it. You only need to notice that it has been here all along, the way the bottom of a lake is always here, even when the surface is restless. So you do not need to quiet your mind. You do not need to stop your thoughts or push them away. That struggle, the effort to make the mind be still, is often the very thing that keeps it restless. Like trying to smooth water with your hands. The more you press, the more it ripples. Instead, you might simply let the thoughts move, the way waves move across water. Naturally, effortlessly, without needing your permission. They will come and they will go. Some will be large and some will be small, and some will barely be thoughts at all. Just feelings, half-formed and nameless, passing through like shadows. And as the thoughts move, as the waves rise and fall, you might notice what is beneath them. Not an idea, not a concept you have to understand, just a feeling, a stillness, a depth, something vast and quiet that does not need to think in order to be, something that has been here longer than any thought you have ever had. You might rest there, not because you have achieved something, but because you have always been there. You are the deep, still water. You are the quiet beneath the waves. You have always been here. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. There is one more story I would like to share with you. It is a very simple story, and perhaps it is the simplest one of all. A long time ago, in a village between two mountains, in a valley where the river ran slow and wide, there lived an old man named Koji, who had spent his entire life traveling. He had left the village as a young man with a pack on his back and a burning feeling in his chest that he could not name, but that drove him forward, always toward the next horizon. He had been to the great cities of the south, where the markets were loud and the streets so crowded you could not see the sky. He had been to the quiet temples of the north, perched on mountainsides so high the clouds passed below like rivers of white silk. He had crossed deserts where the silence was so complete he could hear his own heartbeat. He had crossed seas in small boats and slept in the homes of strangers and sat in silence with monks who seemed to carry a light inside them that he desperately wanted but could not find. Now he was old. His hair was white. His knees ached in the cold, and he had returned to the village where he was born. His parents' house was still standing, smaller than he remembered. Just 2 rooms, a kitchen, and a garden that had grown wild in his absence. But the plum tree his father had planted was still alive, leaning with age, its branches touching the wall of the house as if reaching for something familiar. Koji's neighbors expected him to be full of wisdom, full of the certainty that comes from having seen the world. But Koji was quiet. He spent his days in the garden, pulling weeds and carrying water, the way his father had done before him. When people asked what he had learned, he would smile and say very little. One evening, a young woman named Yuki came to his door. She was restless and unhappy, not because anything terrible had happened, but because she felt, deeply and constantly, that she was in the wrong place, that her real life was somewhere else, that the person she was supposed to be was waiting for her in some other village, some other version of her story. "You have been everywhere," she said. "Tell me, where should I go? What should I look for?" Koji invited her to sit in the garden. The sun was setting, and the light was the color of honey. "I will tell you what I know," he said. "But I should warn you, it is not very much." He looked out at the garden. "I spent my whole life looking for something. I went to every place I could think of. I studied every teaching. I tried to become wise, to become good, to become whole. I believed that somewhere out there was a version of me that was complete, and if I just kept looking, I would find him." He paused. A bird landed on the plum tree and was still. And then, one morning, I was very far from home, in a country whose name I can barely remember. I woke up and something became clear. I had been looking for a feeling, not a place, not a teaching, a feeling of home, a feeling of being enough. He touched the bark of the plum tree gently. the way you might touch the hand of someone you love. And I realized this feeling was not in any place I had traveled to. It was not in any teaching I had studied. It was not in any version of myself I had tried to become. It was here, in the simple act of being alive, in the breath, in the way the light falls through leaves, in the sound of water. It was never somewhere else. It was never something I needed to earn. It had been with me the whole time, like a candle burning in my chest all along, and I had been so busy looking at the horizon that I never thought to look down. Yuki was quiet for a long time. "So I should not leave?" she asked. Koji smiled. "You can go wherever you like," he said gently, "but you might take a moment, before you go, to notice what is already here. Because the thing you were looking for, the peace, the wholeness, the feeling of being enough, it is not waiting for you at the end of a long road. It is what you are made of. You carry it with you wherever you go. You have never been without it. Not for a single moment." The light faded. The stars came out. The young woman sat in the garden for a long while, and the old man sat beside her, and neither of them needed to say anything at all. There is a line from the Dhammapada, one of the oldest collections of the Buddha's words, passed from teacher to student across thousands of years, like a flame passed from candle to candle. It says, in essence, that peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. This is not a command. It is not an instruction to follow or a standard to meet. It is a reminder. The kindest kind of reminder. The kind that does not tell you something new, but helps you remember something you have always known. It is a gentle hand on your shoulder in the dark, saying, "You have been looking so hard for so long in so many places. You have looked in achievements and in relationships and in the opinions of others. You have looked in the future and in the past and in every version of yourself you have tried to become. And the thing you have been looking for has been with you the whole time. Not because you found it, not because you earned it, not because you finally became good enough to deserve it, but because it is what you are. It is what you have always been. You are not broken. You were never broken. You are a traveler who has been searching for home, not realizing that you have been carrying it inside your chest all along. The way a candle carries its own flame, the way a river carries its own current, the way the sky carries its own vastness, even on the darkest, longest night. So now you might let yourself come home, not to a place, not to a destination, not to a version of yourself that has everything figured out, but to this moment, to this body, to this breath, to the simple, extraordinary fact that you are here, alive, breathing, resting, and that this is enough. This has always been enough. You might unclench your hands, just slightly. You might let your jaw soften. You might let the muscles behind your eyes release, and feel the warmth of that release spread across your forehead like sunlight touching a wall. And you might let the weight of everything you have been carrying, all the searching, all the striving, all the years of trying to become someone you already are, you might let all of it settle into the bed beneath you, into the ground beneath the bed, into the quiet, patient earth that has been holding everything since the very beginning and has never once asked for anything in return. You do not need to go anywhere. You do not need to become anything. You are already here. You have always been here. Let yourself arrive. Let yourself be home. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. And now, we are going to let everything grow very quiet. No more stories tonight. No more teachings. No more words that ask anything of your mind. Just this. Just the feeling of being here, in this body, in this room, in this soft and ordinary moment. Let the breath breathe itself. You do not need to guide it or count it or watch it. Just let it come in and let it go out, like a tide that has known its own rhythm since long before you were born. In and out. In and out. Notice your feet. Simply notice them. They are warm, perhaps, or cool. They are heavy. They have carried you through this entire day, every step, every errand, every threshold, and now they are done. Let them be heavy. Let them sink into the bed. They have earned this stillness. Notice your legs, the calves, the thighs, all the muscles that have worked so faithfully, softening now, becoming loose and warm. You do not need to hold yourself up anymore. The bed is holding you. Simply let it. Notice your hips, your lower back, all the places where the body stores its effort, its tension, its quiet daily strain. Let them soften, not all at once, not with force, just a little, and then a little more, like snow melting, like a hand slowly opening. Your belly rises and falls with each breath, gently, slowly, like the surface of a lake on a windless night. There is nothing to push against, nothing to hold in, nothing to guard. Just the soft, steady rhythm of being alive. Your chest, your ribs, expanding and releasing. The heart beating quietly behind them, steadily, faithfully, without hurry. It has been beating for you your whole life. It beat while you slept last night and the night before, and every night you have ever lived. It asks for nothing in return. Simply notice it. Simply let it be. Your shoulders. Let them fall away from your ears. They have been carrying so much. Not just today. For a long time, maybe. Let them drop. Let the space between your shoulders and your neck grow wide and soft. There is nothing to brace against, nothing to defend. You are safe here. Your arms, your hands. Let the hands open if they want to. Let the fingers uncurl, like petals in the first warmth of morning. An open hand holds nothing and needs nothing. It is simply at rest. Simply here. Your neck, your throat, your jaw. Let the jaw grow heavy. Let the tongue rest wherever it wants to rest. Let the lips part slightly. Let the face become smooth and quiet, like water after the last ripple has gone. The space behind your eyes. Let it soften. Let there be darkness. Warm, gentle darkness. The kind that is not empty, but full. Full of rest. Full of quiet. Full of the simple fact of being alive without needing to do anything about it. You are sinking now. Gently, slowly, the way a leaf drifts through still, clear water. There is no hurry. There is nowhere to land. Just the slow, quiet drifting, deeper into rest, deeper into quiet, deeper into stillness. And somewhere beneath the thoughts, beneath the worries, beneath the plans, beneath the old familiar voice that says you are not enough, there is a place that is still. It is wide and warm, and it has been here all along. It does not speak. It does not judge. It does not ask you to be anything other than what you are. You do not need to reach for it. You do not need to earn it. You are already resting in it. You have always been resting in it, even when you did not know. Simply be here. Simply breathe. And as you breathe, you might notice the room around you growing softer, the edges of things blurring, the way they do at twilight, when the world is not quite dark and not quite light, but somewhere gentle in between. You are in that in-between place now, between waking and sleeping, between holding on and letting go. And it is a beautiful place. You do not need to leave it quickly. You can rest here, in this soft middle ground, for as long as you like. The sounds around you, whatever they may be, are growing distant, as if they belong to another room, another house, another life entirely. They are not your concern. Let them be. Let them drift away like boats on a river, floating gently out of sight. There is only the breath now, only the quiet, only the feeling of your body, warm and heavy, sinking deeper into rest, every muscle releasing, every worry dissolving, like salt in warm water, like mist in morning sun, slowly, gently, completely. The moon is shining somewhere above you, behind whatever clouds the night has brought. It has always been shining, even when you could not see it, even on the darkest nights. It was there. It is here. And you are the sky that holds it all, the clouds, the light, the darkness, the stars. All of it held gently, held without effort, held the way the night holds the world, completely, quietly, without asking for anything in return. Nothing to fix, nothing to solve, nothing to become. Just this, just here, just now. There is nothing wrong with you. There was never anything wrong with you. You are whole. You are here. You are enough. Let the night take you now. Let sleep come the way it wants to come. Not forced, not hurried, not earned. Like a friend arriving at your door. Someone who has known you a long time. Someone who does not need an invitation. Someone who simply sits beside you in the dark and stays, asking nothing, offering everything. The breath goes in, the breath goes out. Slower now, softer, the space between each breath growing just a little wider, a little quieter, a little more like home. And you are home, simply resting, simply here, simply whole. Sleep well. And thank you for joining us here at Buddha Sleep Stories.